Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are on the planet. I hope you're going to be taking action for World Water Day tomorrow. And welcome to a special event hosted by Earth 911 and sponsored by the Georgie Badiel Foundation, Newday Impact Investing, and Intentional Futures. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, publisher of Earth 911. I'm also the director of digital strategy and innovation at Intentional Futures, a Seattle-based impact consultancy. We're going to be talking with model and water philanthropist Georgie Badiel and Newday Impact Investing's Director of Communication, Dan Keeler. But first, let's take a moment to learn about Georgie's work in Burkina Faso in this video program that we are debuting here for the first time in the world today. And
I am Georgie Badiel Liberty, also known as the Water Princess. I was born in Ivory Coast and grew up between Ivory Coast and Burkina Faso. My family is originally from a village called Gundi. When I was a young girl, I had to get up at 6 a.m. to get water with my grandma. It wasn't my favorite thing to do, especially since I am not a morning person. The journey to the well was tough. The water was dirty. The bucket heavy and the sun burning, sometimes reaching up to 118 degrees. My feet would burn on the ground, but that cup of water at the end of the journey made it all worth it. Despite my humble childhood, I was blessed to become Miss Burkina Faso and Miss Africa in 2004. This opened doors for me in the fashion world, allowing me to work with renowned brands like Louis Vuitton, Marc Jacobs, Saint-Oy, and Diane von Furstenberg, just to name a few. However, in 2009, a visit to my sister changed everything. She was pregnant and I had to wake up between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. to fetch water. It struck me that despite my success, the struggle for clean water back home hadn't changed. People like my sister needed things to change. But how? I started by partnering with my friends, Susan Verde and Peter Reno, to create The Water Princess, a best-selling children's book based on my childhood story. The Water Princess got big, and we were able to donate proceeds to build wells in Burkina Faso.
Wow! Thank you, God! We are so grateful!
But that wasn't enough, so that I started a foundation, and all my friends, family, and water prince and princesses all over the country raise money every year to build and restore more wells. We are currently providing water to over 340,000 people, and we have our own team, engineers. We even have our own drilling machine. And we just don't build wells anymore. We build an oasis, an innovative community meeting place that provide water, toilet, electricity, and a garden to farm all year round. One of the biggest issues for water charities is that wells tend to break after a few years. Burkina Faso has over 5,769 broken wells. Can you imagine that? The Georgie Badiel Foundation has created an engineering woman program where women travel around on a motorcycle and repair wells all day. The water hadn't stopped flowing. Sustainability is a priority. But this isn't enough. I believe we can provide water to every family in Burkina Faso. And then our model can be used to end the water crisis around the world. Women and girls spend 200 million hours each day collecting water around the world. We need to put an end to that, and we can, but we need your help. If you can pitch in $10 a month, we will be on our way to end the water crisis in Burkina Faso, and one step closer to ending the water crisis in the whole world. And if you can't pitch in for any reason, but you still want to help, share this video and tag more friends in the comments.
That's a beautiful story, and I want to welcome Georgie Badiel Liberty, who is our guest and honoree today. Thank you for joining us, Georgie. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. I want to ask, first off, how you describe a water crisis in Burkina Faso. Can you sort of draw a picture of how significant that is, how many people are going without water? And of course, you've helped 340,000 people. How many more do we need to help?
Thank you so much, Mitch, for having me. Thanks to your team and Earth 911. I am very happy to be here. And thank you for all of you who are joining us, the GBF team, our board of director, and all of our supporters. Burkina Faso, so far, let me start from the start. It's been now over a decade that I've been advocate for access to clean drinking water for the people of my country. And like you could see in this video, even watching this video kind of like take me back, back over a decade ago. I was explaining that the story of my sister haven't changed. And still today, like you could see me next to the creek, carrying the brown, dirty water. The situation haven't changed for many women. About 63% of the population in Burkina Faso don't have access to clean drinking water. And that is the work the Georgie Badiel Foundation is doing to change. We need to change it. Like, you saw the water.
Well, and that's what's so compelling about this. This is literally where you grew up and had the experiences that getting up in the morning. You talked about the fact you're not a morning person. Thank you for joining us before noon. As you look back on those moments,
with my new job, I have no choice than to wake up. But if I choose, if I have nothing to do, I'd rather stay in bed all day.
Well, I'll tell you, it's great that you got out of bed for this, because you've already started to change the world. And looking back at looking at that water, I mean, you had to boil the water every day. The water that comes out of the well it's cleaner, it's more sanitary. How has that changed life in your sister's village, for instance? Can you paint a picture of the transformation that clean water makes in the lives, not just of the women involved, but the community?
Yes, absolutely. The opportunity that access to clean drinking water give to these communities is that they become healthier.
Mhm.
Women save more time to start a small business, because we need to know that rural people in Burkina Faso live with less than $1 a day. Less than $1 a day. So water gives them opportunity to start a small business,
Mhm.
to take care of their children. Because imagine if you have to walk 2 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours a day to get water. When you get home, how do you feel? You are exhausted, and the water is heavy. So all you want to do is to rest. But unfortunately, women in these villages don't have that privilege.
Mhm.
I was a kid with my grandmother, when we bring back the water home, we will cook. She will cook, and then after that, we will go to the field and walk. And then we come back. If we didn't have enough water, my grandmother will send us back again to go get the water. So this is the reality that women live in these places. And
Well,
water, that opportunity to become independent, empowered, healthy, take care of their kids, have a life for themselves.
well, one time that we spoke, I recall you saying that just being able to get your hair done for the first time by someone else because you have the money to do so changes a person's life. And this is particularly compelling because you are training women to build and run these wells. Now, you said that folks in Burkina Faso get by on less than $1 a day. What is the compensation for a participant in the program like? Do they become one of the wealthier people in town as a result of this work?
Well, saying one of the wealthiest people in town, why not? Burkina Faso have over 5,700 and I believe 69 broken wells.
Hmm.
So the training we give to the woman, we basically teach them basic engineering, and
Hmm.
that is how I started. About 7 years ago, I will go to villages. They will ask me that they need access to clean drinking water, and my thinking was like, oh, but you have a well right here. They're like, yes, it's broken. Uh, Another question to them, okay, where do you go get your water? They're
Hmm.
like, oh, we just go to walk 2 hours, 3 hours away from the next village to get water. And I couldn't understand. My question to them was, why don't you fix this one? Why don't you fix this well, so that you don't have to walk that 2 hours, 3 hours away from your village? You have water right here. The answer was like, we don't know. And to me, it was like, well, that is easy. Let's teach you how to fix these wells. So I called the GBF engineers. They came in. Building wells is engineering.
Hmm.
I called them, they came in, we broke down the whole curriculum. And we need to know that most of these women that GBF has been teaching the basic engineering program, most of them, the level of education is like maximum of a fifth grade. So we broke that engineering curriculum. We teach them that curriculum in the in the dialect. The national dialect in Burkina Faso is More. We teach them in More. We have a theoretical classes that lasts for 6 months, and then the practical that is another 7 months. So for 13 months, we're teaching basic engineering to this woman. But the goal for them is when they graduate, they go fix all the 5,000
Right.
broken wells, and that is income.
Does this also represent a path to another career? Are women taking this program, working on the wells for a while, and then finding other applications for that new skill?
Yes, absolutely. They go from one village to another. When they see a broken well, for example, in one village, they will get the community together. Usually, how we work is that we will ask the village to contribute as well to repair the well. And the contribution is not much because, unfortunately, usually wells break for a $1 problem. That is how we start. It's so simple. From $1, we will end up on a 1,000 issue.
And the communities, I think it's really important that they do step up and participate in this, because they take responsibility for the well and will then be able to pay for future repairs rather than having to suffer with just a broken well. Yes. Tell us about the community center design that you've introduced now, because you're using solar power to provide a study space for kids. You've got the gardens. What is a typical Georgie Badiel Foundation well installation look like on the ground?
Yes. So a typical, I would say, installation for our work is we start number one with the water research. Mm-hmm. Once the water research is performed, that's when we send the drilling well machine to drill the borehole. Once the borehole is drilled, we take a sample of that water to go analyze it, because we need to make sure we provide clean water. It's not because it's clean that means that it's clean for human to consume. So we take that sample of the water, we send it to the National Office of Water in Burkina Faso. They call LONEA. We send it to the laboratory. They analyze the water, give us the confirmation that it's clean to consume. And then once we have that okay to go, that's when we start now installing the equipment going around, meaning the water tank, the solar power, the emerge pump, building the housing, the toilet, the wall around the oasis, and the community garden, electricity installation, etc., etc.
Is this often the first toilet that's also available in town?
On our oases, we install toilet, like you could see on the video when we were presenting just now. The video, most of our oases have toilet.
Well, but what I'm asking is this the first time that a village might have actually had a toilet versus an outhouse or a pit?
Well, in their homes, they have their own toilet.
Okay.
And then which is very traditional. I call it traditional, compared to what GBF what GBF build. We just build the regular toilet you and I will use.
Like a running water toilet.
No, we didn't reinvent toilet. We made it simple.
But it represents another change that is bringing these people into a different way of life. And so as you envision the future of Burkina Faso, obviously bringing clean water to everybody is going to be a challenge. How many people do we still need to help get clean water?
Nearly half of 63% of the population. The population is a little over 20 million now.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're still talking about roughly 11,500,000 people who need clean water in Burkina Faso.
Yes.
I also know, and there's some very interesting data that I read just getting ready for this conversation about the fact that water resources themselves are becoming targets for insurgents. And I know that Burkina Faso is enduring an Islamist insurgent movement. Are these installations becoming a target, or are members of your teams becoming a target as a result of their work with water?
Yes, I would mostly say the people because, like you could see, water is so much needed in these places. So whenever they even go to these villages, they might destroy the whole village, they might burn the village, but they won't touch the well.
Really?
Yes,
Because it's
because
so valuable.
it's so valuable. It's so valuable. Like you could see in this video, in the video, sometimes the weather get to up to 118 degrees. It's hot. You can cook an egg like just right there on the ground easily. That is how hot it gets. So, but I have a great story for you about our work in terms of like facing terrorist attack. So back in 2018, most of our program were located in Samatenga, which is very closer to the north of the country where all of the terrorist attacks are happening. And the engineer called, our main engineer and country manager, Zakaria Widraogo, he called, he said there were a team that was drilling a new borehole in a village, unfortunately for another organization, and they were attacked by the terrorists. That is when I knew that the situation were worse than what we were thinking. Right away, in a second of a click, we completely moved our program.
Really?
We had to. We had to. We couldn't put our staff in risk. And right now we're working in Kadiogo. In Kadiogo, I cannot say we work in Tangenda Suri, Komsilga, Pabre, Komki Ipala. These basically places that are not far from the capital.
Okay.
So the villages where we work, they're an hour and a half, maximum 2 hours away from the capital. Out there is not possible for me or for anyone to guarantee 100% security. This is not possible because the whole country has been having terrorist attack a little bit everywhere. And I love the UN, the UN theme for this year, World Water Day, Water for Peace. And this discussion is all about, yes, how can we provide water for and create peace through that? So, so we move our program completely to Kadiogo, but it's tough. It's been difficult because for the first year after that, we needed to support some of the villages where GBF used to work. They were attacked. They left and came to Kadiogo. So we needed to support this community. We needed to support these people. For here, GBF sent tons of food and other aid, humanitarian aid, whatever we could give them to wait until, to survive until they can go back to their village.
Now, so what you're saying clearly is the cost of supporting these people is rising as a result of this insurgency. You mentioned in the video that sending $10 a month can be transformative. How would that change the life of a village, and how many villages could you address if everybody listening today got involved and
yes.
contributed?
Yes, thank you, Mitch. So we launching, starting tomorrow, we're launching a recurring monthly donation. With just $10, you can give water to 3 people and for a year. Can you imagine? So if you do want to better even calculate your impact, if you give $10 a month, you are going to impact 36 people. If you give $20 a month, that will provide water to 6 people a year, which is in total of 72 people. Can you imagine you just what you use to buy your Starbucks coffee? Like when I go to Starbucks, I
For
buy,
a couple of days.
I'm telling you, I buy a large latte, is 8 something, plus tip is $10. So imagine with that $10, you can impact 3 people. You subscribe to donate monthly per year, you will impact 36 people. And that is the opportunity we would like to give you to impact the life of someone today.
It really is an amazing opportunity to change a life and to change a nation. As we've talked, when we met in New York and talked, you also described how inexpensive it is to fix this 5,700 wells that are broken. And it really is a trivial amount of money to bring the water back to those villages. What would we need to raise in order to just fix those wells, for instance?
Well, our price to fix a well is 1,000. So we have 5,769.
$5 million.
Well, that's it. We need to time it up. That's it. So yes, yes, maximum 5 million and more 6 million maximum will fix those wells. Now, one of the important work GBF has been doing is around sustainability. I have spent the past 9 years thinking, how can we sustain, like why we have over 5,000 broken wells. And I have to come back again on that number. The reason why I have to come back again on that number is that last year the number was 9,000 something, or the year before. And then the recent numbers of the Ministry of Water is 5,000 plus. I believe the number went down from over 9,000 to the 5,000 because they cannot go to get the right number of the broken wells in the north of the country because of all of the terrorist attack that has been happening. So on my head, I am still stuck with the 9,000 broken wells. So it's like, how can we have nearly 63% of the population not having access to clean drinking water? And then there is over 9,000 broken wells out there. This is insane. This is crazy. So for the past 9 years, all I have been thinking and working to is how can we sustain this water project? And what we finally come up with is the Oasis model. With the Oasis model, we asked every person that come and get the water to give us a penny, which is nothing. Like out there is nothing. To give us a penny.
1% of the average daily income.
Yeah. We put this money, we put the penny on the side. When the water, the system is down, we come and fix it. So for us, giving the opportunity as well to the community to be responsible for the water system has been very important for us because it's expensive to build a well. And I've been telling the people on the ground that, fundraising is not an easy thing. It's very difficult. So we have people that work very hard. They come in, they donate to us, they trust us with their money. When we come in, we build the well for you. You have to show responsibility too, because it's hard. Life is hard for these people as well, but they donate. So that has been one of the hardest work we've been facing, and it's happening.
Since the theme of this year's World Water Day is Water for Peace, I'm curious whether the UN might be trying to talk with the insurgents who, as you said, don't destroy the wells because they're so valuable, about the need to bring water to everybody, regardless of the conflict. Have you spoken with any diplomats in terms of trying to at least use water as a bridge to peace?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, I think the situation Burkina Faso has been currently facing, water is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Water is one of them in the sense that I was born in Ivory Coast, next door. My parents went there to try to have better opportunities. But this water situation in Ivory Coast is not easy as well. It's very difficult. Uh, Burkina Faso is 10 times harder, and Burkinabe are one of the hardest people. We are the second producer of cotton in West Africa and the first producer of organic cotton in West Africa, and that is without water. And that is why I believe so much on giving simply water to the people of Burkina Faso, because I know they will transform their lives through water. They will rise through water. So I feel like the terrorist attack situation we've been facing in Burkina Faso is political, in the sense that I felt like the government for a very long time, starting from Blaze and then the after, they completely abandoned their people. They abandoned their people in the sense that they didn't provide them that basic necessity that they need to rise in life. They didn't provide them that. And now today, most of these terrorists are Burkinabe.
Mm-hmm.
They are Burkinabe. And when they are asked, they're like, well, what other choice I have?
Yeah.
I didn't have much choice.
Because of the lack of economic opportunity.
Exactly. All I have, I am a hard worker, but I don't have water to farm.
Well, you're hitting on an important point, which is that building the market, creating an economy, which is predicated first and foremost on water, which is the most used material in the world. And weirdly, cement is second. But just opening the door to clean water, access to clean water, can change a country profoundly. And I want to bring in Dan Keeler, who's with Newday Impact Investing, because they take a market-based approach to solving these problems. And I'm introduced Dan now. Let me click the right button here. Hi, Dan. How are you? Dan, Newday's been working with Georgie and the Georgie Badiel Foundation through your advocacy and engagement program now for many years. You donate 5% of your net revenues to a group of environmental organizations, which includes GBF, the Jane Goodall Institute, Earth Echo International, which is led by Philippe and Ashlyn Cousteau, who've been on shows with us before. And could you tell us, how do you create profit and impact, and how do listeners get involved?
Sure. Well, first of all, Mitch, thank you so much for having me on. It's a great pleasure to be here, and it's always an honor to share a space both with you and with the incomparable Georgie Badiel. So huge honor. And it's also an honor for Newday to be working with organizations such as the Georgie Badiel Foundation, which, you're doing such amazing work in Burkina Faso and beyond. And I have to say, I mean, I've met you several times and we've talked about the work that you do, and every time just hearing the reality of what you're actually doing, the real impact of what you're doing is just, it's phenomenal. And, the theme of this event and this year's Water Day being Water for Peace, we see so much violence around water around the world, and maybe violence over water sources where it's scarce, or even in situations like Ukraine, where Russia bombed a reservoir to basically put water stress on a population that had plenty of water. I mean, the use of water in conflict is tragic, and it's just wonderful to see that you're addressing that in such a practical way and creating these spin-off opportunities as a result of it as well. So that's kind of I'm just so delighted to be here. In answer to your question, Mitch, Newday is a financial institution. We're focused purely on impact investing. And for those of you who might be unfamiliar with impact investing, the core concept is that you want your money to support your values. So whenever you invest, whether it's just having money sitting in a bank account or putting it in a pension plan or an investment fund, that money's working. The financial institution will be investing it in companies or other instruments to provide a return. And in many cases, the companies it invests in might be doing things that don't align with your values. In fact, in most cases, for most people, I think. So, what we do as impact investors is to seek out companies that are both having a positive impact on the world and generating meaningful financial returns in the process. So an example in our clean water portfolio, which is the portfolio that's aligned with Georgie Badiel's work, would be Global Water Resources. It's a water resource management company. They focus on something called total water management, which is reducing demand for non-renewable water, identifying situations where you can either use no water at all or use water that you can use and reuse. And so basically reducing companies' demands on water. Another example is Badger Meter, which is a company that provides flow measurement products. And the crucial component of that is that they help people or companies to know exactly where and how they're using water and how much. And again, that enables you to really kind of focus on only using water where you absolutely need it and leaving the rest of the water for other uses. So we have a portfolios in a range of areas, including clean water, healthy oceans, biodiversity, human equity, and so on. And through those portfolios, we, as you say, you mentioned that we give 5% of our net revenues to organizations such as GBF. In some cases, it's as much as 15%. We have a floor of 5%, and then we can donate more than that. And the way that we do that is, as I say, by investing for impact. Those funds generate a return for the investors. We also charge a fee for managing those portfolios, and we channel some of that fee straight back to the organizations that we're working with. So it's a very simple equation. We also have another slightly more unusual, I guess, financial instrument, which is where for larger investors, we have a range of what we call separately managed accounts focused on those same key impact themes. And as well as focusing on generating market rate returns, we offer investors the opportunity to channel a portion of the money that they're making, their returns from those programs, from those funds, into programs that we've created with our impact partners. So we've got a number of different programs focused on clean water, on healthy oceans, on biodiversity, and so on. And the idea is that for larger investors who have an impact focus and really care about what their money is doing, we give them this additional opportunity to invest directly in programs that are having a positive impact on the planet.
So as you think about the challenge of water globally, what regions should we be focused on most because of particularly climate change? We know that is actually increasing water scarcity at a time when we should be finally bringing clean water to everybody.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because I actually can't think of a single region in the world where we shouldn't be focusing on water. When you even look at, we're doing some work with an organization that's based in the Colombian Amazon, and the work that they're doing, while it's focused on biodiversity, what they're seeing is that the cutting down of some of the Amazon rainforest, particularly in Brazil and some of it in Colombia, while we initially think of that as being a disaster because of the carbon capture aspect of it. We're suddenly releasing all this carbon dioxide into the air, we're taking away the capture capacity of the trees. What it's also doing is massively impacting rainfall, not just in that region, but beyond. So where we see, for example, in Panama, there's been a lot of discussion recently about the low water levels in the Panama Canal, which is affecting trade through it. They're having to put fewer containers on the ships that travel through the canal. It's having an impact on GDP of Panama for a start, but also on the companies and individuals that rely on that transportation corridor. That water level is reduced in part because of the deforestation taking place in the Amazon, one of the wettest places in the world. So, and then you think back to my home country, the UK, it's becoming increasingly arid in the south of the UK, where people are planting cactuses in their gardens that used to be a classic leafy English green garden. Now they're planting, really plants that live best in water-stressed conditions. So I think it is obviously a global problem. The most acute places, though, I think, George is a perfect person to talk about that. She must see areas where you can address in a very quick and not particularly expensive way the shortages that are impacting people just through wastage and just through inefficient infrastructure. And those are the kind of things that, you mentioned, Georgie, actually, I thought this was a really interesting point, or perhaps it was you, Mitch, but the contaminated water, or the potentially contaminated water, has to be boiled before you can use it. That then means you're burning precious wood, and you're, not only burning the wood, you're creating that carbon dioxide output, and you're harming the lives of the people that are around it. Open fires are notoriously toxic. They're very bad for children. They're very bad for developing, for developing people that are developing physically. And that's just because you can't get access to clean water. So it's extraordinary, the range of this problem. But it's also incredibly heartening just to see the real impact being made by people that have just said, you know what, I think I can do something about this.
Well, and of course, Georgie did do something about it. Georgie, how did you get in contact with and start to work with Newday? Tell us the story of how your partnership evolved.
Yes, thank you, Mitch. And then I'm very happy to see you, and honored to be collaborating with you guys. Last year we finished the new Oasis project of Newday. Is beautiful. It's been serving a lot of women that have been doing farming in Bulkende, which is very lovely. And I cannot wait to welcome you and Doug to come in and visit your water project in Burkina Faso. So to everyone listening, this is the impact Newday has been creating through GBF, and I'm very thankful for it. So back in 2020, my friend Susan Rotendo, who is on the board of director and who was the chair of GBF, introduced me, Doc, because we were working to restructure our board, and right away, Doug and I fell in love with both of us' mission, and since then we've been transforming lives through clean drinking water.
Now, you're referring to Newday's CEO, Doug Heske, for those of you listening.
That's right. Sorry, I think everybody
No
knows.
worries.
Everyone knows Doug. Surely.
Friends should be on a first-name basis. Newday, when you look at a relationship with an environmental impact organization like GBF, Dan, what kinds of criteria do you apply to the decision to support them? Talk a little about that.
Well, as Georgie just said there, I think a lot of it just depends on that sort of personal chemistry and recognizing that missions are aligned. And I think you can really see that very quickly. But to sort of codify it, I guess, we're looking for organizations that are similarly focused as us on direct impact, on real impact, not just ticking the boxes, not just saying, oh, we're in this space, we kind of just throw money at this problem. Like, we want to see actual practical effects. And the Georgie Badiel Foundation is a perfect example of that, where not only do they see the problem and they identified a solution, they're innovating around that solution as well. And the water oasis is just such a fantastic idea, using ultra modern technology in a way, but in an environment and in a manner in which you can, it doesn't need a team of MIT scientists to maintain it. So we're really looking for mission alignment. We're looking for just real commitment and a really practical solution. That's the key ingredients, I think. Is it? Go on. Yeah.
Well, this also relates to other work in other aspects of the portfolio, your women and youth-oriented investments as well. You're helping empower women in Burkina Faso. What are some of the other portfolios that you're maintaining at this point, and how do they touch other environmental efforts?
Well, so one of the main efforts we have at the moment is focused on the ocean, on ocean health. Mm-hmm. So we have, and that's one where we have an ocean health portfolio, which is the kind of account that I mentioned before, that higher net worth investors can put money into, that then generates this return that they can then put into the ocean program. But we also have an ETF, an exchange traded fund, focused on ocean health, and that is traded on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker AHOY, AHOY. And that fund is focused very much on companies that are having a positive impact on ocean health, but also includes some companies that we call ocean improvers, which are companies that could right now be having a negative impact on ocean health, but very, very clearly has an opportunity to change how they're behaving. And we used the word advocacy earlier, and that's very accurate. We will advocate through our shareholdings to encourage those companies to change their behavior and to recognize that behaving more responsibly towards these irreplaceable resources such as the ocean, that can actually be, and in very many cases is actually more profitable and less destructive, obviously, than damaging them. So that's an example. The ocean health is a very, very important part of our mission at the moment.
And to Georgie's earlier point, that when you unlock that economic opportunity, you can have a transformative impact across not just the direct recipients, but an entire society. And in this case, we know that there are so many young people feeling no opportunity are turning to radicalism. And some of your investments are also around youth empowerment. Can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, well, it's certainly the youth empowerment aspect it's so important. You mentioned, Georgie, the situation that's going on not just in Burkina Faso, but across the whole Sahel region with these insurgencies. And when people become radicalized, it's very often not because they particularly believe in the whatever religion or cult it is that's kind of behind it. It's just because of economic insecurity. Yeah. And so, we try and we don't have a specific program focused on youth empowerment, but we definitely try and direct our investments towards organizations that are creating opportunities for younger people and for communities generally. I was going to mention we're doing some work on, we're not just working on deep ocean, we're also doing work with coastal restoration, currently focused on the southeast of the US, where there's been a lot of degradation of the coastline there, particularly loss of seagrass, loss of coral reefs, loss even of the sand on the beaches, because the ocean, because of climate change, we're seeing more aggressive storms and so on. And when you start working in those areas and enabling the local communities to kind of regenerate their natural defenses along the coastline, you create economic opportunity, you encourage development of things like oysters and seafood. And this is the same, we had a meeting recently with the head of the US government's or the US State Department's Atlantic Ocean program, where we were talking about work that they're doing along the coast of West Africa, which is very similar, looking at protecting the coastline in a way using aquaculture as the protection mechanism. So you want a stable environment in order to be able to have a healthy fish population, healthy shellfish population. That then enables you to create protein-based food for the local community. It also provides economic stability, and it has the added benefit of slowing migration, because people that see opportunities like that are much less likely to take the risk of walking across the Sahara Desert or going through Libya to try and get on a boat across the Mediterranean to try and get to Italy or Greece.
Now, we have a question from the audience, and it's for you, Dan. How can you encourage an organization as a customer, as a consumer, or as an investor like Newday? How can you encourage an organization or business to align with initiatives like GBFs? What kind of pressure can we put on folks?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's one that we, obviously we have to deal with a lot, because this is a core part of our mission, is to encourage organizations to recognize the opportunity to work with a Georgie Badiel Foundation or similar organizations, but also to recognize their own responsibilities. And we do this not by kind of making people feel bad. We're not going out there and reeling off statistics, telling them how terrible they are. We really do focus on that opportunity to make a positive difference. And that's one of the things that with organizations, particularly funds and family offices and so on, that's proved very successful. That we're just saying it's an awareness building campaign. We're saying, look, we know that you care about the impact that you're having. We know that you want to make a positive impact. Here are some of the ways you can do that are actually extremely easy for you to enact. And we really kind of provide the conduit to do that. So it's very much an awareness campaign, and that's something. I see the question, Jean Baptiste. I mean, that's something that you can do yourself as well. It's just to, every time you're talking to somebody about these kind of issues, I think if you just focus not on the problems but focus on the solutions that are out there and the organizations that are doing really positive work, that's the kind of thing that will build this groundswell of understanding and create an environment where people aren't like, oh wow, that's crazy, I had no idea I could do that, but they're sort of like, well, oh, that totally makes sense, of course I want to do that.
And of course, when you create these new economies, you create new markets, and that is an opportunity, especially if we do it sustainably, to really bring the world forward to a level of prosperity that we can achieve within the planetary boundaries. Mm-hmm. Georgie, when you think about the future that GBF is trying to create within Burkina Faso and of course, the wider African continent, what do you think that people are thirsty for? What opportunities are they looking for that we can tap into?
Mm-hmm. I think people, the people we serve, want to be free from the burden mm-hmm. of working to get water. At this time, they are not farming. Most of the villages, on my recent trip, I was there in February, they are not farming, and they are farmers. So they are waiting for...
What are they doing?
They're just sitting, doing nothing, because they are waiting for the raining season to come. Imagine they're waiting for the raining season to come so they can farm and harvest. So they do that one time a year. And that is the opportunity the Oasis, the GBF Oasis, give them mm-hmm. to farm all year round.
We could change the food supply entirely.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Water is freedom for the people of Burkina Faso. And that's my fight. That's why I'm fighting for. That's why every morning when I wake up, I want them to have it, because I know they are hard workers. They can do this. They want to do this for themselves. So, but we need to provide them the water.
I just want to remind the audience right now that they should visit GeorgieBadielFoundation.org and make a contribution, because, Georgie, what you just said is a clarion call that all of us need to hear and act on. We can't simply hope somebody else takes care of it. Like you were saying earlier, the communities take responsibility for these wells. We need to take responsibility for one another. I want to close with a question for both of you that we can talk for a few minutes about. But that is, right now, 1.8 billion people live in conditions of permanent water scarcity, and up to 4 billion people live that way, or live without reliable water supplies for up to a month of a year. And so there's a spreading desertification. Drought is causing more and more concern for water accessibility. What lessons from what you've done in Burkina Faso should we be thinking about applying around the world? And I know both of you all have a different take on that from your unique perspectives.
Well, I would actually, because I want Georgie to have the final word on this, but I would just say that one of the things that I've taken from my work in this area is that there are so many solutions to these problems. Like you were talking about farming and how the impact of not having enough water means you've got a bunch of people sitting around, an awful lot of people sitting around, really not able to do anything for a large part of the year. And simply bringing water to that community or enable them to access water will unlock an enormous amount of energy, an enormous amount of potential. And what I'm seeing when we're talking to both investors and to organizations that are trying to address some of these challenges is that there really are solutions there, like the two companies that I mentioned that are helping companies to reduce the wastage of water. Like that's a huge part of this puzzle. The same with food, the amount of food that is wasted, that really, if we weren't wasting the amount of food that we are wasting, it would potentially solve this sort of so-called global food crisis that we're experiencing. I don't even mean so-called global food crisis, the global food crisis. But so what I would love to see is some of this stuff moving faster. And the way that we're going to enable this to move faster is having money moving into the right places. Right now, a lot of money is focused on I don't know, improving consumer experiences, or it's focused on building war machines. It's focused on, bigger and better luxury cars. If some of that money, a significant portion of that money, were focused on addressing some of these problems with technology that we already have, absolutely know how to do this. We know how to farm in a way that uses less water. We know how to manage water so that even if you do only have one rainy season a year, you can manage water throughout the year from that rainy season. You don't have to let it wash away your fields in 1 month and then have 11 months of water stress. So that would be my call, is just for people to mobilize and to recognize that we have the answers. Let's just get a move on and put them to practice.
Now, William S. Gibson said that the future's already here. It's not evenly spread. Dan, how do you accelerate the sharing of that technology? Should we be taking more open source approaches? Should we be distributing more information and education in order to activate that as well?
Again, really good question. I mean, we could talk for hours about this. Regrettably, I think there is a government involvement in this. I think we do need there to be a direction from governments, because it's very hard, no matter how well-meaning and no matter how motivated individuals are, when you're talking about corporations and you're talking about companies, it's very hard to get them as an organization to share more. So I think that is actually absolutely a good direction to go in. But in my experience, no matter how much people want to, it's very, very difficult to get them to do that without some sort of push from regulators.
Georgie, you get the final word, and deservedly so.
No, I am coming in with Dan. 100% of what Dan say, I will add a little extra to that. And through my experience is that because of climate change, back in 2018, my grandmother called. She said, we are all hungry. And I couldn't understand. I'm like, come on, grandma, I know you have food, but she's a very generous woman. She will be giving just like my mother. They love to give. And she's like, no, the whole village is hungry. And I couldn't understand it. So another mayor called me. He said that we work with in Pibaure. He said we're experiencing famine. That's when I understood what my grandmother said when she meant we are hungry. So because of climate change, the rainfall basically decreased. So the way that people conserve their food, they couldn't conserve enough food to eat throughout the year. So they were experiencing famine that year. And I traveled. I went to my village. We brought them tons of food. I traveled to the north of the country. I have met for the first time children that was eating 2 times a week. 2 times a week. It was crazy. I couldn't look into the eyes. I felt ashamed. I felt the shame in the sense that, like, how can we have other human beings experience that, children? So I would say that we need to conserve our planet. We need to care for it. We need to conserve water. It's very important. Yes.
Georgie, you're right. This is an emergency. It's an emergency, and there is a window of opportunity to end the emergency. But if we don't act, we are going to all suffer from it in a variety of ways. And it's so important that we take the time and make an investment personally in order to help change the trajectory of human society. And I hope everybody will take a few minutes right now to visit georgiebadielfoundation.com, or .org. So that you can make a donation. Remember, $10 a month will help 36 people have access to clean water year-round. This is an incredible opportunity to make a difference in a country that is suffering from a variety of negative impacts that are historical, that are climate-related, that are economic, that we can change. And we can change them right now if we take action. I want to thank Georgie Badiel Liberty for being here today and for all of the work that you've done. And Dan Keeler, thank you for joining us as well.
Yes, thank you so much, Mitch, for having us. It was an honor having this conversation with you, and thank you to everyone that joined us. Then
And I want to play the video one more time because I think it's worth the time. Spend a few minutes, folks. Think about what you can do today. I want to thank everybody for your attention, our audience, all the people who helped put the event together. Georgie and Dan, have a wonderful day.
thank you.
I am Georgie Badiel Liberty, also known as the Water Princess. I was born in Ivory Coast and grew up between Ivory Coast and Burkina Faso. My family is originally from a village called Gundi. When I was a young girl, I had to get up at 6 a.m. to get water with my grandma. It wasn't my favorite thing to do, especially since I am not a morning person. The journey to the well was tough. The water was dirty. The bucket heavy and the sun burning, sometimes reaching up to 118 degrees. My feet would burn on the ground, but that cup of water at the end of the journey made it all worth it. Despite my humble childhood, I was blessed to become Miss Burkina Faso and Miss Africa in 2004. This opened doors for me in the fashion world, allowing me to work with renowned brands like Louis Vuitton, Marc Jacobs, Sanctoy, and Diane von Furstenberg, just to name a few. However, in 2009, a visit to my sister changed everything. She was pregnant and I had to wake up between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. to fetch water. It struck me that despite my success, the struggle for clean water back home hadn't changed. People like my sister needed things to change. But how? I started by partnering with my friends, Susan Verde and Peter Reno, to create The Water Princess, a best-selling children's book based on my childhood story. The Water Princess got big, and we were able to donate proceeds to build wells in Burkina Faso.
Wow! Thank you, God. We are so grateful.
But that wasn't enough, so that I started a foundation, and all my friends, family, and water prince and princesses all over the country raise money every year to build and restore more wells. We are currently providing water to over 340,000 people, and we have our own team, engineers. We even have our own drilling machine. And we just don't build wells anymore. We build an oasis, an innovative community meeting place that provide water, toilet, electricity, and a garden to farm all year round. One of the biggest issues for water charities is that wells tend to break after a few years. Burkina Faso has over 5,769 broken wells. Can you imagine that? The Georgie Badiel Foundation has created an engineering woman program where women travel around on a motorcycle and repair wells all day, the water hadn't stopped flowing. Sustainability is a priority. But this isn't enough. I believe we can provide water to every family in Burkina Faso. And then our model can be used to end the water crisis around the world. Women and girls spend 200 million hours each day collecting water around the world. We need to put an end to that, and we can, but we need your help. If you can pitch in $10 a month, we will be on our way to end the water crisis in Burkina Faso, and one step closer to ending the water crisis in the whole world. And if you can't pitch in for any reason, but you still want to help, share this video and tag more friends in the comments.